Okay, let's try this again. Tim Fitzgerald, Cole Carmody, and that guy's named Ryan Wallace. Welcome to our live. Hopefully, it doesn't start echoing again. A strange happening. It's a little bug in the machine, but we are here. Oh, hi, Wally. Um,
Hello.
and it's been a crazy day at Go Power Cat. It's been a crazy day for K State Nation. Excuse me. But if you're not subscribing to Go Power Cat, this might have been a surprise to you, but we let our people know that Will Howard had been looking at the transfer portal. Now, breaking news as we start this, I had reported earlier that the leading school of choice for Will Howard was Notre Dame. And Will Howard's already lost out on his top choice. Notre Dame apparently is going to go with the Duke quarterback, Riley Leonard, as he hit the portal also, or is hitting the portal because of his coach going to A&M. So Will Howard is still looking for a destination, but my source tells me there are a lot of good choices. A lot of schools are lining up with NIL money for a guy that has those kind of accomplishments, that kind of resume. And Will Howard is the real deal, and teams know it. There's a lot of really high profile programs uh, looking for a quarterback, and Will Howard might be their solution. Let's bring in the fellas now. Ryan Wallace, give me your overall feeling on. Let's just start with Will for now. We've got other news, but let's start with Will.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that I think a lot of us started talking about as the season kind of was progressing. Is um, I think all of us kind of assumed when it hit a certain point in the season that Will probably wasn't going to be back at Kansas State. The question was, okay, is he going to try and roll the dice and go the pro route, or is he going to jump in the transfer portal? And honestly, I there's a part of me that wonders if maybe if this was a different draft class for the quarterbacks, if he wouldn't have rolled the dice and gone
Yeah,
pro. But this is not that year
exactly.
that you want to be kind of, even if you're confident in yourself, and even if you feel like you've talked to people that yeah, we could get you a high grade or whatever. With you start going through the guys that are expected to get drafted in this year, and even a guy like Will Howard, that again, as confident as you want to be, as much improvement as you feel like you've made, what have you, very smart move of him, I think, to come back and go the transfer portal route. Now the question on everybody's mind is, like you said, Fitz, is where does he end up? Because this is an important pick for Will, and I don't know Will, you know what I mean, but I know the guys that Kansas State recruits, and you guys have talked to Will plenty more than I have since his recruiting days. He seems like a guy that is very much not going to care about how much money is tossed at him for NIL. This, as you said, all the last 48 hours, Fitz, this is about Will Howard improving his draft stock to get to the NFL. That means it's got to be a good scheme fit. That means it's going to have to come from a program that has done this in the past, that has elevated quarterbacks to the professional level in a similar way that we've seen from Kansas State and Chris Kleiman. So I would imagine that, if it is a big name school, it's going to be because of what they've done on the field more than whatever they supply off of it. And it honestly wouldn't surprise me maybe if it isn't a big name school, just because maybe they make the best pitch to Will, that they feel like, what they want to do on offense fits his strengths.
Cole, was that your computer? Did you have your
Some
notifications
you know
still on? Go
you know
sit
how
in the corner.
sometimes when you have do not disturb on, but then your favorites text you. So
Uh,
that was obviously someone that was close to me, and it went through, and they're asking
okay.
for the link. So
Okay,
that's
I just want everyone to know that I don't have favorites. I have everyone equal. Hey, Cole, this has been a crazy day, but Will Howard leaving was not a surprise to us. In fact, we suspected it for weeks. We just didn't have information to go on. But Saturday, it was clear. When he looked over his shoulder as he went up the tunnel, that was, I'm done. I'm done. I'm out. It's been a good run. And then it was pretty clear in post game that he was saying farewell.
Yeah, when he started talking about thanking the media and thanking the fans before we asked him questions in post game, that's when I think it kind of hit reality for at least all of us in that press conference room. You don't thank the media, you don't thank the fans unless you're saying goodbye. And it was pretty obvious. I didn't really think. I think maybe one or two people asked Will if he had an idea what he was going to do next year, because I think everybody kind of knew that he was moving on, whether it be declaring for the NFL draft and opting out of the bowl game, or maybe entering the transfer portal, like we saw, that was it. And I made the comment coming down the elevator. I don't know if it was to you or Gilbert or somebody. I don't think Will Howard's going to play. I don't think he'll play again. I just got that vibe after he kind of motioned like he did, showed his emotions after the game on Saturday. You could tell that there's a lot of emotions that went into everything in Will Howard's 2023 season. I mean, we talk about all the things he had to go through, not just necessarily from the fans, but from essentially being benched at Texas Tech to then winning the job back again, to then being on the verge of making the Big 12 championship, seeing yourself get eliminated before you can even play on Saturday. And, we've talked plenty about the game, but I still believe that there was a little bit of deflation amongst the team, knowing that, well, crap, we can't even get into the Big 12 championship game anymore. Like, this sucks. And so I feel like there was some of that kind of emotion there for Will too. And he just looked off. And this is obviously something I'm sure he had made the decision of. He was going to finish it through. But it's been a strange 48 hours to say the least.
Okay. Today continued. The first guy in was Jake Rubley in terms of quarterbacks. That's not a surprise. He didn't even hardly see the field this year. Did he ever play? Did he play one game?
He played one game.
Oh, he played one snap, I think, maybe two. So that wasn't a surprise. Then Will Howard announced, which wasn't a surprise to us. And just before we started this, Adrian Lara has announced. So they started the day with 5 quarterbacks, and they're down to 2, including walk-on. I mean, I'm trying to do this. Walk-on. Jacob Knuth, who, look, he's a scholarship level player. They just didn't have a scholarship to give him. So they put him on academic scholarship because he's eligible for that. They have now found out, and this is breaking news, that academic scholarships are different and the redshirt rules are different. He can't play a single snap and keep his redshirt eligible. So as of right now, they have 1 quarterback for the bowl game. That I'm going to say the obvious is less than ideal. There will be an appeal filed, but the NCAA, they don't really give a crap about student athletes. They like to enforce rules just to have rules, unlike the Big 12 that's willing to change in midstream. And we'll see what happens. If not that, I guess the choices are prepare Seth Porter or Wesley Fair or someone else who's played quarterback at the high school level as a Wildcat quarterback that maybe can throw it a little bit. Unfortunately, Trayshawn Ward can throw the ball, but he entered the portal today. Right. So he's out. And or you just line up and try to protect Avery Johnson. But Wally, he's a running quarterback. He's exposed to hits. This is kind of a mess.
Yeah, it's kind of an unfortunate series of events because, on one hand, there's the excitement that fans have. I'm sure that Avery Johnson has to finally get his chance at 4 quarters, where there isn't any shoulder, looking over his shoulder. Or he knows it's not going to be just purely situational. I would imagine Colin Klein will let Avery do everything in the playbook. But, when you talk about purely just talking about Avery, it's unfortunate that, all season long, we've come on here with the Go Power Cat pregame show saying, okay, if the red shirt is burned, play him. Like there's nothing to hold you back at this point. You've already burned the red shirt. And yet, not only has Avery not been playing much, it seems like these last couple of weeks, didn't get in against Iowa State, didn't get in against Kansas, Baylor a little bit, probably not as much as maybe you would think. And then what was before Baylor? Texas. And that was a terrible series that he was in there for that didn't really allow him to do much of anything. And so beyond the games, I've been hearing through the grapevine that he hasn't been taking as many snaps with the ones either as the course of the season has gone on. So now you're faced with the facts and with the situation where you're trying to kind of catch Avery back up to speed for the bowl game and at the same time try and keep him healthy. Fitz, if I had to guess, I would think that if you're going to need a backup quarterback, that it would probably be a guy like Max Marsh, who is a guy that came to Kansas State as a quarterback out of Colorado. I think went through a full season as a quarterback and then made the transition to safety. Two seasons. Okay. So he's obviously a guy that would make sense in a pinch. But there's actually a surprising amount, Cole. I started going back through, and I know a lot of the in-state guys, but I mean, you're thinking, you mentioned Wesley Fair. Ty Bowman is a guy that played quarterback at Chanute. Trevor Erickson played at Chapman. Jet Deneen played at Free State. So I mean, they've got a lot of guys, but as Fitz said, you don't really want to go that direction if you don't have to. So I would imagine, yeah, Fitz, they're going to push for the Jacob Knuth, trying to get that one cleared sooner rather than later. Because like I said, at this point, you're not only catching Avery back up to speed, but also whoever the backup is back up to speed. And as I throw it back to you, there's this kind of whole caveat too, Cole, which is another kind of ongoing issue that we've seen this season. And that is that if you take Max Marsh and you take, let's say, a Ty Bowman and try and work them into the offensive game plan, just in case, you're probably taking a key guy off of special teams yet again.
Yeah, they're running low on special teams. And
because Shane Porter, another special teams guy today.
Yep. Wow. I thought I saw Ty Bowman was in, but it's been a crazy day. I might have had a fever dream. I might have had a dream. I took a little nap. Maybe I dreamed more guys were going into the portal. And Wally, I'm really disappointed. Nice hat. That you left out my favorite quarterback option, a former high school quarterback on this roster who could really, literally shake things up under center. Say it. Uso.
Oh, Uso. Yeah, I was going to say, why am I blanking on this? We just talked about this. Yes, Uso Seumalo actually did play high school quarterback in Hawaii. Unbelievable. Do it.
Just line him up.
I guess when they put the fridge in, Fitz, that was more fullback role, not true quarterback. But still, we'll just call it the fridge formation.
Man alive. What a crazy day. And I just want to warn people, this is just the beginning. This is a two-pronged thing going on here. There are guys leaving like Will Howard for another opportunity, their choice. There's also going to be guys going into the portal that have been told, look, it's not working. Maybe you're not being coachable enough. Maybe, you're buried on the depth chart. Maybe we need the space because you're not performing where we thought you would. And just always know this, the coaches don't just run off kids for any reason other than the fact that, look, you're not going to play. You kind of lost your space here because it's not working. And it's going to be busy. This was just the first day, and hell, it's not even open yet for these kids. I don't believe. I think they got to wait another week. They're just announcing they're going to the portal when the portal's open to them.
Right.
So it's insanity. It makes bowl prep incredibly interesting because remember, in bowl prep, you still need a scout team quarterback to run the opposing team's offense. And maybe you bring in I don't know. I mean, maybe someone comes and does that I don't even know how it works. This is so incredible.
Colin Klein?
Yeah, he's kind of busy. Kind of busy. And I think he's kind of old. I hate to say that, Colin. I'm sorry. I know in coaching you're young, but in quarterbacking at college you're old. It's only the beginning. We're going to see a lot more of this going on. But I'm going to say this, Cole, as I turn it over to you for a second. With that said, I think K-State Nation is refreshed, not because they were tired of Will. There is so much anxiety and temptation to be excited about Avery Johnson, but you knew you had a senior quarterback that, deep down you knew he was the guy. He was going to play. Chris Kleiman's loyal, and that's a good sign. If you're Avery, you've now seen it. Unless you really drive the ship into the dock, you're going to be the quarterback. And they just have to find a way to keep him healthy. But this starts officially. The Avery Johnson era at Kansas State is here, and it will be here for the bowl game, which we still expect to be the Pop-Tarts Bowl in Orlando.
It kind of changes the outlook of the season, does it not? I mean, that's kind of the way I feel, and I think either way, even if K-State finds a way to score a touchdown at the end of the game on Saturday, hold Iowa State, and then win the game in overtime, Will Howard's still going in the transfer portal. Right? Like, this isn't just something that, they lost, and so naturally Will goes into the portal. That's not really how this works. Like, this was something that was kind of in the works. And so I think now K-State fans are starting to realize, okay, well, if this was the plan all along, then if you're going to the same bowl game that you would have gone to had you won that game, it kind of changes the outlook of it a little bit. And I do believe that the bowl game now, and Fitz, you talked about this in your walk and talk after the game, but it is now officially look ahead to next season. I think if you ask the coaches too, I mean, they are going to use that bowl game, regardless of who they play, as kind of a tune-up for next season. Last year, that was not the case. They were in the Sugar Bowl against Alabama. They were trying to make a statement. Even the year before against LSU in the Texas Bowl, Chris Klieman had won a bowl game. They wanted to win a bowl game. Now it's going to be kind of a playing with house money mentality. Let's see what we have with the young dudes. And if you're Chris Klieman, roll with it, because those guys are going to have to play. And every single year, K-State has gotten better in the transfer portal. It is going to be hard to replace all the talent that K-State is losing in the transfer portal with guys who are going to be just as productive. You're not going to replace a Will Howard in the transfer portal. Now, you hope Avery Johnson can step in and do the job. You're probably not going to replace Trayshawn Ward in the transfer portal. You're not going to go out and get a guy who's going to run for 600 yards. So a lot of this is going to be internal guys having to step up. And that's, I guess, really the tryouts start whenever they have practice again.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's craziness, guys. But it won't only be at quarterback. I think this will also usher in. Well, look, Ben Sinnott's not playing. We know that. We don't know about Cooper Beebe and some of the other guys that might be, departing. There might be guys that play that then go into the portal, and that happens. So I think we're going to see a lot of young guys, Wally. I think they're going to just say, hell with it. Here we go. We're going to rotate guys in on the offensive line to try to get them ready. Why not? You just got to be ready for next year as best you can.
Well, and like Cole was kind of alluding to, I mean, this is a good year, in a way, the way the year shaped out. And again, Kansas State fans would much rather be playing this Saturday again for a chance to repeat in Arlington. But at the same time, the way a lot of this shook out, going to the Pop-Tarts Bowl and probably playing a team from the ACC, let's say it's NC State, to me, that's a great team and a great opponent to potentially, like Cole said, lay it all on the line with some of your young guys and still possibly come out victorious. It's different than if you're, again, going against, say an SEC team or something like that in like the Texas Bowl. So hopefully that's the way that they ride with this game. Because I'm with you, Cole. I mean, I look at this, once we get into the postseason, the kind of loyalty or whatever you want to call it to the seniors or, guys that, quote, know the playbook better or whatever. To me, that starts to go out the window. I think you use this month as almost a fresh start. And like you said, Cole, good word usage. It's a tryout, essentially. Let's see who deserves to start, who deserves to get minutes, because we're treating this, especially now, like it's a 2024 game, almost more or equal to a 2023 game. And Fitz, I wanted to throw one other thing out that I just thought about. In addition to everything that we're seeing with the transfer portal at K-State and the exits, when we talk about how crazy things are about to get, let's paint this picture, because it's they call it silly season for a reason. And I think K-State to some degree avoided that in years past. It will be absolutely insane around Manhattan, because not only do you have the departures that you're dealing with now, a couple key pieces, right? Like a Will Howard, like a Trayshawn Ward, potentially others to come. But now you're looking at K-State that's having to deal with do you guys know off the top of your head when the Pop-Tarts Bowl would be, the date on it?
28th, yeah.
Okay, so it is a little bit later than I thought, but you're dealing with a little bit earlier than obviously what you had last year, by a couple days. So you've got bowl prep going on, a kind of a weird bowl prep, as we've already alluded to. You're trying to figure out who's going and who's staying, because as Fitz said correctly, the window would still be open for guys to play and then hop in. But also keep in mind that there's early signing day within the same window. And within the transfer portal window, it is now only 45 days. You have 45 days as a player to get in and for a team to make the pickup, right? Make the acquisition. And K-State has been notorious in years past for kind of getting off to slow starts. Maybe there's one or two guys, maybe there's an Adrian Martinez out there that they felt like they could get in quickly with, made a connection, boom, done deal. We know we're going to get him. But a lot of times K-State's been that team that's kind of almost waited for like the second wave of players after the bowl game. Like, let's kind of get through bowl prep and then reassess things. They don't have that luxury this year in the winter period. You are literally, I don't envy Chris Klieman and his staff, because now, Fitz, you are literally jam-packing your roster management, which includes player portal exits and acquisitions, trying to keep guys on the commitment list that you already have, trying to gain high school and junior college commits for early signing day, and going through bowl prep that now includes possibly having some random kid out there at backup quarterback that has never played quarterback this season. I mean, it bonkers.
It's crazy. I go back to this. Maybe I'll tell him Chris Kleiman needs to bring someone in, a veteran coach that isn't coaching, and say, start looking at kids in the portal. Start looking at their tape, reviewing them. And I know they got staff in there, but it's kind of an all hands on deck. If you've got a couple dudes, start going through them.
Yeah.
And then we'll pass these kids on to the position coaches for a quick look, and we're going to start. They're too slow to offer in the portal. Kids remember who was first at the gate.
Yeah.
Cool.
I was just gonna say, in a strange way though, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. I really don't remember this many players this early on entering the transfer portal for K-State. It felt like the last few seasons it's been kind of a later process. And I know that Chris Kleiman has talked about he doesn't really talk to his seniors about, hey, are you coming back until after the season. I think that might have some impact. That he probably has a way better idea of who is actually going to come back and be on the roster next year. And he probably already knows the guys that are going to be in the transfer portal. And so I think that might motivate them to move a little bit more swiftly. Again, I don't know this for sure, but it would just seem logical that the more guys you have leave early, the more easier it might be to get guys early because you have an idea. And with this being a small high school class, Wally, they have a finite number of scholarships for high school kids,
right,
and an idea of how many scholarships they have for transfer players. This is going to be a transfer portal heavy class. I mean, there's an opportunity here for there to be more transfer portal players than high school players. And I don't know if that's ever happened at K-State. I know in the Common Era it hasn't. I wouldn't say it's likely, but it is a possibility that there are more transfer portal players than high school players.
Well, let's point out this. The NCAA gave a 2-year window for teams to kind of settle into the portal era by lifting the scholarship limits on a class. It's
right.
25 a class, but for last year, we saw Deion Sanders do it at Colorado. And this year, all you have to worry about is that 85 number. You have to be at 85 total scholarships or under. So if they have 20 kids going to the portal, because Wally, they're close. This is a small recruiting class before the portal stuff fired up,
right,
because they just didn't have many to stay under that 85 or at that 85. But now, if they have 20 kids going to the portal, they can bring in 20 portal kids on top of their recruited class. They can total 35 people as long as they're at 85. But that doesn't help you for the bowl game. None of that helps you for the bowl game. No. But, and this is conjecture on my part, but here we go. I feel like some of the team's problem on Saturday was people knew people were going in the portal. I mean, how are you buying in? You go from possibly playing for the Big 12 championship if things break. They didn't break that way. And then you find out, oh, Will Howard's going into the portal. Because as I discovered on Saturday, this was no great secret.
No.
I'm kind of amazed that they've kept this bottled up. But sources were, just kind of coming at me to verify that this was true, that Notre Dame had, contacted the family. Like, you can get into that, whether that isn't in the rules, but it's going on all over football and basketball that needs to be addressed. So now they're just in a situation where they got to have enough guys to play a bowl game. And it could be like what LSU went through in some ways without the coaching change. And it's an interesting situation. But I think everyone who loves K-State football, every fan, every student, every member of the football team, protect Avery Johnson at all costs. Walk him across the street. Someone taste his food, everything. I mean, this is crazy. I've never seen anything like it. Wally, I wouldn't blame Chris Kleiman in a few years for saying, the heck with this. This is not what I signed up for, or any college football coach. This is insanity, and it's not just – look, I'm not opposed to the transfer portal. I think it's great. It helps a team reload. I mean, it helps both ends. And I don't have a problem with NIL. I have a problem with how the portal and the NIL are being used outside of the rules, but the feckless NCAA doesn't stop anything. They just deny waivers. That's all they do.
I have a problem with the fact that, again, they continue to overlap something that has become as vital and as important as the transfer portal is, with early signing day. It makes absolutely no sense. Either go back to how it was, where you have, you can kind of backload with high school guys after your portal window, or do what everybody, it seems like, is kind of in unison on, and that is move it up. And if you've got kids, for instance, maybe there's Avery Johnson would be an example of one of these, just because we've been talking about him. But this season, Gus Hawkins, Caden Massey, all these guys that are committing in June, because some of your bigger name kids, right, that are already committed. Again, we'll keep using Avery because he's the topic on everybody's mind right now. But I mean, that was a recruitment that began early, in his early junior year. So by the time he got to June and the official visits and then the commitment to Kansas State, it was done. He didn't want him to be a recruit anymore. He wanted it over with. Let those kids sign in the summer before their senior season starts, and get that out of the way. And then again, maybe keep the one in February to backload after the transfer portal. But as you mentioned, I mean, you talk to any college coach, it makes absolutely no sense to have the postseason overlap with your recruiting signing day, overlap with the transfer portal window. I don't get it.
That's what basketball does too, guys.
Yeah.
David Castillo signed in, would have been, earlier November, before his season's even started down there at Sunrise. So yeah, I mean, I'm with you guys. It doesn't make a lot of sense, but again, this is just sometimes the resources of these bigger name programs, like a Big 12 school, like an SEC school, compared to some of these smaller schools, they don't have the coaching infrastructure to deal with all of this. Luckily for K-State, they have people on staff who say, okay, you're going to be looking at this. Now, you still have to maybe go coach a position, but you're just going to worry about, recruiting transfer portal for this position. But, at smaller schools, you don't get that. And so it's a hard job, but I think this staff is in a unique spot because they haven't had to deal with this. And so if there's one thing to watch and one thing to monitor, it's that this is really their first time doing all of this at the same time. So it'll be interesting to see, that's for sure.
K-State shouldn't have to do that, though. That's the only problem I have with it, Cole, is you shouldn't be asking, Brian Anderson to prepare running backs. By the way, you lost Trayshawn Ward, so get Anthony Frias ready and maybe Joe Jackson ready. And also, we're going to need you to continue to possibly recruit some high school kids. Maybe there's a preferred walk-on. And also, we're going to need you to go through and keep an eye on the transfer portal too. I mean, that's where Kansas State has to step it up in some way, shape, or form. And as Fitz said, get somebody in this staff as a support member, some kind of analyst, where when this time of the year hits, you're already talking to, whether it's coaches, however you need to do it. Nowadays, I think it is becoming more of an agent world. I think kids are having representatives. Find somebody that's connected in that world so that when December 4th hits, you're not scrambling to figure out who's in the portal, who makes sense for us, who's a culture fit. You don't have time to do all that. You've got to have the NIL ready to go. You've got to have your sales pitch ready to go, and you've got to have 5 to 10 players that you need and that are attainable, that you can go get on a flight and talk to immediately.
Indeed. You're watching Go Power Cat live as we go live to discuss Kansas State's quarterback situation. Will Howard is in the transfer portal. We reported earlier that while Notre Dame seemed like the possible destination just yesterday, apparently Notre Dame is going in a different direction, but Will Howard has plenty of other schools courting him already, which is incredible. 2 other quarterbacks have gone into the portal for Kansas State, leaving Avery Johnson as QB1, which it was time to go there. We get that. And the issue is Jacob Knuth, as an academic scholarship player, is not eligible to play in any games and maintain a red shirt. So they're going to have to appeal that with the NCAA, which I don't have great optimism about. We are having a sale right now at Go Power Cat. If you've enjoyed our coverage, if you missed out on the reporting of the Will Howard situation, make sure you head over there. 75% off. It's Cyber Monday, and you can grab that and get signed up at Go Power Cat and become part of a great community where they talk about K-State sports. They don't bicker as much as they did at the old Wabash Station. It's got kind of ugly. It's a really fun community of great K-State fans. Head over there, 75% off. Make sure you're subscribing to this YouTube channel. Hit the thumbs up if you're enjoying this video. We're going to try to go live. We're even messing around with an idea of doing a daily live like the Insiders. We'll see how that comes, but your feedback is appreciated. Ryan Wallace, is they move into this this step of the transfer portal, what other positions, and now, look, I'm not ruling out finding that quarterback like a Jacob Canute that wants to come in and kind of just, be here and be present, because quarterbacks don't last the season. Maybe they'll take one out of the portal, but what other positions are of interest to K-State as of now?
Well, when it comes to quarterback, and I know that that's kind of a question mark now that you're seeing the numbers fall off in that position room. I don't think that they're going to go portal, only because you'd have to find somebody that has a Jacob Knuth kind of mentality where it's like, look, if I'm the starter, that's great, but if not, I'm also cool with that. And let's be honest, I mean, a lot of quarterbacks that are in the portal are in the portal because they want to play more.
Right.
And they're going to see Avery Johnson and go, that ain't happening. They're going to see, Blake Barnett. And they'll go, yeah, even that one's probably going to be tough to supersede. So probably have to go a PWO route on that one. And I'm sure that they've got a couple guys that they've been identifying through camp that they feel, good, that might be able to come in and develop and be better than, if you want to, be better than a preferred walk-on stats, what you might expect of a preferred walk-on quarterback. And we'll just throw one name out there, Cole, because you and I have been talking about him. It would not surprise me if Dylan Dunn is one of those guys. And the last name might ring a bell to some folks. It's Mark Dunn's son. He's a finalist for the Simone Award in Kansas City. Broke a ton of records as a passer at Blue Valley Southwest. I would imagine that he's on the short list, right? Depending on kind of what kind of room that they want to make. Outside of quarterback, though, let's get to the other hot topic positions. I had something go up this morning on Go Power Cat where we kind of listed out some positions that might make sense, to seem realistic for them to focus on early. Offensive tackle is a no-brainer, even with Carver Willis's development, which, again, let's say it again on this live, because we were so critical of him early on, and it continues. He deserves a big round of applause for sticking with it and making just huge strides. But even with Carver Willis, even if you're Connor Riley and you feel good about Carver, there's just not a lot of experience behind him. And so I feel like getting a veteran seasoned guy in there that can at least be competitive, either that player is going to make an instant impact and start right away, or he's going to, push freshmen like a John Pastore or somebody to get better. And you feel better about, bringing that seasoned guy in no matter what. Offensive tackle for sure. I think defensive tackle, guys. With Uso Samalo being kind of up in the air, I would expect that he comes back, especially with the late season injury. But then at the same time, he went through senior day stuff on Saturday, which was puzzling. And that's not to say, guys, that you can, once you go through senior day, you can't come back. I mean, I believe we've seen it happen before.
Oh, yeah. Hayden Gillum did it last year.
Hayden Gillum. Okay. I knew there was somebody last year. But yeah, I mean, that still seems like maybe a position that they'd like to get a little bit more stout at. So I could see defensive tackle. I think they haven't had a season yet, transfer portal season yet, that they haven't taken some sort of versatile defensive back. Whether it's a true safety, whether it's a guy like Josh Hayes or Marquise Siegel that you can plug at a corner, nickel, or safety, it makes too much sense for them to take somebody that can be of value in the secondary. Again, if they can find themselves a lockdown corner, that's great. But I think if they could, again, find somebody in the mold of a Josh Hayes, somebody in the mold of a Reggie Stubblefield that can kind of do a little bit of everything, that makes a lot of sense. Guys, I think they're going to go for a wide receiver this year. I know that they like the young talent that they have at that position. I know they like the fact that they're going to retain the wide receivers coach for the first time and seems like forever. And those are all good things, but who's the experienced guy in that room right now? Keegan Johnson. I'm trying to think of somebody that would be the vet of that room to really carry it from I've been here before. This is how we need to do things, guys. I think they need somebody like that. And that's what I'm saying. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to go out and get, the next Tyreek Hill or something. I mean, it could be a Cade Warner, it could be a Jaden Jackson, just a guy that knows his role, but somebody that's going to elevate that room. All those guys seem to make sense. And now that Trayshawn Ward's out, are you happy with Joe Jackson? Are you happy with John Price? Those are questions that the staff will have to answer. Otherwise, maybe finding somebody like they did with Harry Trotter at Louisville, and finding somebody like that can come in and be content being, a reserve guy. All those positions would seem to make sense. I think they're pretty happy at tight end. I think they like the interior line. I think they like quarterback. Linebacker seems okay, right? I mean, you've got a lot of guys that were able to see the field this year. So I think they're comfortable at that position. DN might be one other one, Fitz, that I'll end with there, because Cody Stubblefield going through senior night, Khalid Duke now, I think, accepting the Shrine Bowl invitation. So all signs point to him not returning. Brennan Mott the same way. They're down to Nate Matlack in that room, and then Donovan Ryman and Chidi Obiizor and Jordan Allen. And some youthful guys, some guys that obviously show promise. Chidi's going to be a really good player. I think he could start next year, but you start looking at depth, and I think they'd like to have a little bit more reliability behind those guys. So again, I named several positions, but just another reason why it's going to be busy.
So Cole, I think a lot of people were caught off guard by Trayshawn Ward, that if he has another year, why would you transfer again? And I want to be clear, I'm uncertain if this is his choice, or maybe the coaches said, look, this isn't working. There have been some issues with running the wrong routes and that type of thing. That goes back to what one person told me about accountability. But does that surprise you? Here, let's put Garrett's comment up here. It blows his mind that Trayshawn Ward's leaving. And let me just say this. DJ Giddens won the battle at running back. You can complain about the rotation and how they were used, and maybe he was underused. Ryan Wallace has got his hand up. He's a very good student. But at the end of the day, DJ, while maybe not having the flash and substance that you'd want, he was a reliable, I'm doing the right thing, I'm picking up first downs, I'm breaking tackles, just doesn't have the top level speed. And I think Trayshawn realized, well, this guy's younger than me. I mean, he's only going to get better, and he hit the door.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't too surprised. And honestly, guys, he was a senior, right? Like this is his fourth year playing college football. And I kind of thought if he didn't transfer, then he was going to try and, take it to the next level and try and make camp somewhere. I never really thought that the Trayshawn Ward thing was a 2-year thing. When he first committed to K-State, personally, I thought it was okay. He's going to come here, be the guy for a year. They're going to groom DJ, kind of like what they did with him under Deuce, work him in maybe a little bit more, and then DJ would have the title next year. But DJ was just better. He was more effective. I mean, I don't want to say that. I don't think he was better. I think he was just more effective. and maybe that was because of how he was used. But it was I wasn't surprised to see his name per se. But yeah, it does make you wonder what they're going to do with that running back position. Guys, they really like Anthony Frias too. And I know we're sitting here talking about Joe Jackson, but I think Anthony Frias is going to be that number 2 running back in the bowl game. And he's going to have a legitimate chance to stake his claim at, having some kind of role. He'll be going into his 3rd season on campus next year. And, we really don't know much about him. When he's been in the game, he's been able to do what has been asked him. But again, he just hasn't seen the field as the 3rd running back. So that's something to monitor. And Wally, going back to your portal wish list, I want to talk about the quarterback position because I go back a few years, and I don't know if you guys can remember this, but a guy by the name of Gardner Minshew transferred to Washington State to play under Mike Leach at the time. God rest his soul. And the one thing about that transfer was Gardner Minshew went there because he wanted to be a backup quarterback and learn under, Mike Leach and learn about this offense because he wanted to be a coach. Well, we all know the story. The rest is history. He lights it up, goes to the NFL. But why not, if you're K-State, look for a guy like Gardner Minshew who maybe doesn't have a ton of playing experience. He's graduated. He wants to get into coaching. And look for somebody like that. Say, hey,
Yeah.
you can come here. You can be around the team. You can be involved in the game planning. You can be a backup quarterback, and you can help mentor a quarterback. And not only are you still playing, you're also making great connections and becoming eventually a coach one day. I think that's something that I don't know if they would explore that, but I think it would be worth looking into because there's just no experience right now in that quarterback room. And when you don't have any experience, when Avery Johnson is going to be the most seasoned quarterback in that room, that's kind of a problem. I think you got to have somebody in there who is some kind of veteran.
Well, yeah, and one that will understand that, okay, I'm coming in, but I'm going to help this kid get better. And because of the nature of the way he plays, he may not make it through the season, and I'll be there. Wally, you had thoughts on the running back. You were holding up your hand like a good young student.
No, I mean, I don't think that they utilize Trayshawn,
I agree.
maybe the way that they should have. But at the same time, if there are reasons behind, not feeling comfortable that he's going to carry out a certain play or something to that degree, then by all means, I understand it. But there were times when he would get the rock in particular games, and it felt like it was a better matchup for Trayshawn. And they kind of stuck with DJ. And again, the whole thing with Trayshawn coming out of Florida State was the more action that he got, the better his stats were. He's not as effective when you just kind of use him situationally. And so there were times that I felt like they probably could have and should have used Trayshawn Ward. Because here's the other thing, guys, and I think this was pretty well documented on the offseason. You paid NIL money to get Trayshawn Ward to Kansas State, and then you pick and choose when you play him. You just didn't. Something doesn't line up there. So I don't know. I understood on both sides, but selfishly, there were moments that I thought Trayshawn could have added another gear, another element to the offense, and they just didn't use it. Again, everybody has their reasons. I don't know. I'm not on staff. I don't know everything, surely, but there were times I wanted to see a little bit more Trayshawn.
Eric brings up an interesting topic here because we have heard rumblings of possible coaching staff changes. He's asking about the coaching staff. Do you see it staying intact this offseason? I don't, but don't ask me who. I'm hearing there might be some guys moving on. Look, there's going to be so many jobs open around college football. There's just going to be dominoes falling.
We already know two that at least could be, right. One has already been thrown out there as a what do you call it, a hot board candidate list, and that's Van Malone,
right,
at UTEP. We haven't heard. This is not me saying this is happening. It's just
right.
Let's lay out what we know and connect some dots here of who it could be. Van Malone has already been connected to the UTEP job, and also it goes without saying that he's a Houston guy and Houston is open. Now, I think we all agree Van Malone's not leaving Kansas State to go to Houston to be the cornerbacks coach again. I would think he would have to be some sort of defensive coordinator or head coach if he's going to take that job. But so that's one name that at least has been tossed out there. The other one that I think you can connect the dots if you know a little bit about, if you go on the bio page at Kansas State, you can start to connect dots between Brian LePack and Jeff Lebby, who was just hired at Mississippi State. They're both Oklahoma alums. Jeff Lebby has run tight end stuff everywhere he's been. Brian LePack obviously has the Ben Sinnott thing that he can proudly, put on his resume.
Yeah.
And again, I mean, he's got connections to Lebby via Oklahoma. So, I mean, that is one that it doesn't take a rocket scientist to try and connect those dots. But I'm with you, Fitz. Me personally, I haven't heard anything about who, but it would not surprise me if there's at least a change made.
And I'll also add to that. I mean, just again, this is all hearsay. Was that Dude or Daphne?
That was Dude. He's wanting to leave the studio.
I'm glad he's able to chime in.
That's why the Cats and Dogs Studio has its name.
Wally and I were texting about this, but for folks who are in and around Manhattan, they might be familiar with the name Max Stannard, and he was a standout football player for Manhattan High the past few seasons. Graduated going to the University of South Dakota. It's not uncommon for fathers to watch their sons play football. Obviously, Chris Kleiman's son is at Kansas Wesleyan, or he was the last time I checked.
Yes.
And he's definitely made some appearances out there before. I'm not saying that Steve Stannard's going to leave K-State to go to South Dakota or retire to follow his son, But if there somehow happens to position at the linebacker spot open up, I would have to assume that would probably be the reason why.
Yeah, it's like I said, I think the Big Ten West is going to start toppling. I mean, how do you retain those coaches? I mean, it's a hideous form of college football they're playing. And once that happens, then you start to see more guys moving around and the assistant coaches moving around, and it gets very dicey as you're doing bowl prep and recruiting and all the things that Ryan Wallace outlined earlier. There's so much in the air. And oh, by the way, Coach, I'm leaving. It's just I can't. Please send, if you got extra blood pressure meds, send them to the Veneer Football Complex in care of Chris Kleiman. He's going to need them. Well, just send them to Connor Riley. He needs them no matter what. But it's going to be a fascinating offseason. And Ryan Wallace is all over recruiting with the help of Cole Carmody. We're all
Phone's
over.
Phone's going off right now.
Wait,
I got an FCS coach asking about Adrian Lara.
Oh, yeah.
You're the real life Adam Schefter, Wally.
Well, I'm nowhere close to him. I don't want to be Adam Schefter. I don't want to live in my phone any more than I already do. But it does happen this time of year.
Stay tuned to Go Power Cat. We might go live Saturday. I haven't talked to the boys if they're able to do it. Wally's got those things called children. I don't know if I'm not familiar with what they are, but they do take up time. So we'll see. We might go live after the Big 12 championship and talk about things. Cole and I might just do it. The heck with Wally if he's not around. Or we might find a third friend. We've got friends. Maybe we'll have Joe Tillery in with us. We'll see how it goes. If we want to do a live, we'll let you know. Hopefully that link works. My apologies again for the echo chamber. It's the second time it's done it. I have no idea what's causing it. But we've enjoyed it. Boys, you got anything else on your agenda that you need to discuss? Nope. Okay. Folks, thank you so much. Make sure you sign up at Go Power Cat. Make sure you turn on your alerts. Subscribe to the YouTube page. It's free. If you're just not in a position to pay money, that's fine. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. That really helps us. Turn on your alerts. Hit the like button. Leave those comments. Algorithms are weird things, but all of that helps our algorithm. I appreciate it so much. We're at 339 in here right now, which is quite a few. But we will be back. And of course, the Insiders will be back on Monday with another live. But now that the football season's over, I've got more energy to go live. I'm through with my press conference and stuff. So stay tuned for our live.
Some of that energy to me, Fitz.
Yeah, you work a full-time job and then come do this stuff with children. I don't know. Let's send some of that blood pressure med to Ryan Wallace too. Thanks for watching. We appreciate it.